evening from Swansea, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. On last night's episode of SmackDown, we found out that Roman Reigns is grooming Jey Uso to become the new Tribal Chief. However, Jey revealed that he will only accept the offer if Heyman leaves the bloodline. So we've got an awful lot to talk about here today, and joining me to talk all of it, firstly, the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. How are you today, Clark?
I'm doing well. Happy Saturday, everyone. I'm happy to be back once again and ready to talk SmackDown. I mean, a lot happened last night. Long night for Jey Uso. I mean, man, I can't wait to get into it.
Absolutely. It felt like every other segment was about Jey Uso, and he did a fantastic job, as always, in those segments. Also joining us to discuss it, the head of reviewing, Coby Galenzoski. How are you today, Coby?
I mean, I'm doing pretty good. We had, of course, like we said, we had SmackDown. To me, it felt like a long show. Like I don't know if time just felt slow watching it, but obviously, and I mean, I praised this when they did this with the Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar before Night of Champions situation. They told a story throughout the show, so you were always invested, and you were always getting something new and something different. Or not different, but something to think about. So that story truly evolved, and I need to see a little more from this and from WWE on a weekly basis, and I hope we do at the end of the day. But of course, we'll get into it.
Absolutely. Stories throughout the night. It makes fans care about the episode as a whole. I also do agree with you that it did feel a little slow at times, but we'll get into that, of course. Wrestling Republic's reviewer for the episode was David Sheldon, and he gave it 2.5 stars out of 5. And he basically said that exact same thing. He said that there was a lot of squash matches, and because of that, everything just felt like it was moving at times too fast, but then it kind of dragged because there was so much on. And outside of the Jey Uso stuff, well, it was a little messy. But also joining us once again to talk about all of this, Ignacio. How are you, Ignacio?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. It's a hot one here in Texas. I don't know how it's at where you're from, but it's hot, and I've been standing out by the grill all day. But I'm really ready to talk about some SmackDown. I'm here ready to lay the SmackDown on SmackDown.
Oh, that's brilliant. And yes, let's get right into it. And let's firstly talk Asuka's championship presentation. Of course, on yesterday's show, I prepared a monologue about why WWE should rename the Women's Championships, only for them to ruin the entire thing 20 minutes before by announcing they were doing so. But last night on SmackDown, well, the first thing, relevant to this is that Bianca Belair was backstage with Adam Pearce, and Bianca Belair asked for another title shot, and Adam Pearce told her, "You'll be next, as long as you don't come out tonight." And when this happened, I thought it was a little strange, but it did make sense later on. Asuka, then, when she went out to the ring, was presented with a new WWE Women's Championship belt, which is a slightly smaller version of Roman Reigns' new belt with a white strap. I think it looks okay. It is very, it's lazy or whatever, I guess you could say. Again, I understand, like I spoke about in yesterday's show, when WWE used to have two different titles visually for, the women's division and the men's division, there were some people, in the women's division who didn't feel like it was fair that they had a different title and they couldn't go after the men's title, the similar design ones to the men's division, which of course are often the more iconic ones, if you want to call it that. And that's why in 2016 they did it the same design as the men's. However, I feel like maybe the women's world title should have been on SmackDown and then vice versa with Raw, because at least then you have, two slightly different looking titles on each brand. But whatever, they've done it the same. It looks all right. I like the white strap. But the big news story about this was Charlotte Flair interrupted. Charlotte returned to WWE TV for the first time since WrestleMania, since she lost at WrestleMania, and she said that she doesn't wait in line and she wants another championship opportunity. Great. I love Charlotte Flair. I think she's fantastic. I always have done. I've always been somebody to defend her. However, you can't just get title opportunities whenever you come back. It's like you can't keep taking time off, come back, get a title opportunity. I really don't like that at all. And I have a feeling, the entire point of all this. And by the way, Asuka then accepted Charlotte Flair's challenge, which means that Asuka versus Charlotte's next, even though Bianca Belair was promised next. And I feel like this is leading to a Bianca Belair heel turn. I think that's what's happening here. I'm shocked because of how much of a merch seller Bianca Belair is, especially with the younger audience. So you would lose that when you turn someone heel. If it's somebody who the teenage audience likes a bit more, then they might actually sell as much or more as a heel. I mean, Roman Reigns has done that. But when it's somebody who a lot of young kids look up to, like Bianca Belair, that's when you genuinely could lose that little bit of the market. So it'd be a bit of a risky one, but who knows? Maybe she could make just as much money than in the teenage market or something like that, or in the older market as a heel. But Ignacio, what did you think about this entire segment and the new WWE Women's Championship belt?
Oh, I thought it was pretty good. Just taking it from the top, like I was thinking about the same thing about Bianca Belair, because she kind of did like kind of the heelish thing to do, like kind of complaining and whining about why she lost the title and when she's going to get her rematch. And, that's kind of like a heelish thing to do, because it makes them seem like less than and like a whiner, complainer, going to the manager, the executive, whatever. And yeah, so I think it's in the line to give Bianca a heel run, because I think they want Charlotte Flair to be the top babyface, at least on that brand, if not the top babyface in the women's division of all WWE. And then I'll get into that as far as Asuka, the belt. I mean, it's like you said, it's lazy. It's a lazy design. I think maybe they're trying to cater to the fan base that's belt collecting, and they can say, "Oh, I'm going to collect all the different designs of that specific 2013, 14 belt design, whatever." And it's okay. It's just like a Roman's belt. I'm not too flattered about it. I think it is kind of lazy. They can come up with 100 different types of designs and belts and belt makers and all that stuff. If they wanted to, they can do something different, but they decide not to. So but as far as the segment itself, Asuka, I like her persona. I think this is the best Asuka we've seen in 2.5 years or so, or at least whatever, since the pandemic, because for during that time I think she was kind of acting like a bit of a geek or a spaz or whatever, and she was more annoying than anything else. But now she's got personality. She's heelish. She's dangerous in the ring. I didn't agree with all the missed stuff. I don't agree with her like doing it so many times, but personality-wise, character-wise, and her in-ring stuff, I think she's at her best self. And as far as Charlotte Flair, like I don't like Charlotte as a baby face. I think she's definitely a baby heel, but it's just like everything that comes about her just screams star. The way she walks to the ring, the way she looks at the camera, the way she talks on the microphone, the way she delivers her promos, and her in-ring stuff. I think Charlotte Flair now is kind of like Randy Orton as far as the way she's connecting with the fan base. I think like Randy Orton, people didn't appreciate Randy Orton for what he did in the industry and for what he is till later on, like with the RK Bro stuff. And I think the same thing is happening with Charlotte Flair's. I think the fan base is starting to gravitate towards her as a babyface, because they appreciate her body of work and what she's done in the industry now more than they ever have. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I like Charlotte. I like Asuka, and I like where they're at right now as both as individuals. And it's just going to be interesting to see how they try to incorporate Bianca in the mix, maybe giving her a big heel run. I think that's where they're headed.
Yeah, no, I 110% agree with you there, Ignacio. It does look like that's the direction in which they are going in. And we do apologize there to the viewers for any offensive language used. But Coby, heading to you next. What do you think? What did you think about this segment last night?
think it served its purpose. And like, that's the thing. And we have Charlotte Flair who's returning. And of course, anyone who returns after months or weeks of action, not weeks, but after a hiatus from the ring, is going to get a pop, is going to get an ovation. She got the pop she needed. But I don't understand why she's saying, "Oh, when I win, you can put that belt around my waist," and pointing towards the Raw Women's Championship, not the new one that Asuka was wearing around her waist. There's a fatal botch in that, and there's a fatal botch in the title design that I'm surprised Ben didn't mention. They have Women's Undisputed Champion below the big W. To me, that's a fatal flaw because you're essentially saying she's undisputed out over what championship. She's only won one. She's not merging two belts. She's not unifying any belts to become undisputed. And we're sitting here, and it's an exact carbon copy of Roman's belt, aside from the white strap. That's what I don't want to say necessarily ticks me off about the situation, but it wasn't good. And I mean, like I said, I agree that this is an avenue to continue the character development for Bianca Belair. I don't know what not the purpose is. I don't obviously, like you said, she's good with the kids. She's the female John Cena, if you want to call it that. Cena sold a lot with a lot of merch with the kids. Bianca Belair is doing the same thing. We don't know if this character evolution or this character change is going to be a flop or if it's actually going to be a success. But I do believe this is a big avenue of this. And I mean, I'm actually hopeful. I understand the criticism of, Charlotte's back. She just gets a title shot. I mean, as much as I disagree, at least they're not like, oh, this is the first match for SummerSlam. I'm actually glad they're not going in that direction of, oh, she's back. We can market a top women's match for a top pay-per-view like SummerSlam. They're putting this match on a SmackDown, which is interesting. I don't necessarily believe we're going to get a triple threat at Money in the Bank right after, but I do think it's not the end goal. It's a part of the journey, if we want to say it like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, me and Chaos will both be at that SmackDown for the match as well. So, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. And yeah, I do agree with you. I'm glad this isn't, the big match for SummerSlam. And I guess in the long run, this will probably be good for Bianca's character or story development or whatever. But I don't want to say I'm bored of Charlotte Flair, but I'm kind of bored of Charlotte Flair because she just keeps getting thrown in title situations without much character development. And I want to see some more substance there. But now let's move on to something else. And this is the Money in the Bank qualifying matches. And firstly, which opened the show last night in terms of actual in-ring action, we had Mustafa Ali taking on Santos Escobar in a qualifier for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. And LA Knight, came out to watch this match. And he was basically the most over thing about it to the crowd. The crowd were going nuts for him. He's so over right now. And because it was a bit of a, face versus face match, they kind of struggled to, know who to root for, the crowd. But the match itself between Ali and Escobar, it didn't get too much time, but for the time it was given, they did phenomenal. They really did. It was a lot of fun. And Santos Escobar shockingly got the victory. I'm not really mad at it because, like I said yesterday, even though the Latino World Order is massive right now, he doesn't particularly feel like a huge, huge deal himself. So getting a win like this and heading to Money in the Bank, that is big for him. So I'm not complaining about it. I just hope they have a plan for Mustafa Ali. But Clark, what do you think?
It's really interesting. Yesterday I predicted Mustafa Ali would win this, and it was a no-brainer. And the match was really exciting. I love that finish. The is it the Phantasmo driver? Yeah, right off the second rope. It's beautiful. And the match was exciting. Both are so athletic, and the chemistry was better than I expected. LA Knight on commentary was great, and he was so over. I love that. I don't know what the plan is for Ali. Given the free agency thing, I still am just not sure. another win for the Latino World Order. It's interesting. I complained all last year about Damage Control and Judgment Day being heel stables that don't win enough, and now we have a babyface stable that we're getting wins. We're actually padding stats and getting wins with the Latino World Order. It's kind of funny, but I don't mind it in the least, and I didn't mind the match at all. The LA Knight aspect was interesting, and I thought this was, other than what was the main standout, which was Jey Uso and the Bloodline stuff, I thought this was one of the standout matches of the night because it was so competitive and athletic for the time being and the time that it was given.
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, a lot of them were squash matches last night. Pretty much every match was. This wasn't. This was, a fun back and forth match. Fairly short, but very fun for what it was. I had no problem with this at all. Mustafa Ali, he's a free agent appearing on all brands at the moment. Let's hope they have a plan for him. Maybe some stuff down in NXT. He has appeared there now. But let's just hope they have something for him. And let's hope as well they continue going on with Santos Escobar's puss, because he's a hell of a talent. We got Anthony Manzano here in the comments. Hello, Anthony. And he is saying that he believes that Raquel Rodriguez is going to be traded for Lacey Evans so that Raquel Rodriguez can join the LWO. I mean, it's possible. I'm going to be honest. I would be a bit surprised because it's just a random trade, but perhaps so. You really, really never know in WWE. And if you end up being right, Anthony, that is a great prediction. But now let's move on to another Money in the Bank qualifying match, this time in the women's division, as Bayley took on Mia Yim, or as she's now known, Michin. And we had another person on commentary for this match as AJ Styles came down. And to be brutally honest, there isn't really much, if anything, to say about this. Bayley got a quick victory. It was pretty much a squash match. Michin was still yet to see what she can really do on the main roster, which is frustrating as she is really talented. But Bayley got the win. Bayley needs some momentum right now herself. And yes, she's going to Money in the Bank. I don't think I'd mind her winning it, to be honest with you, because it would at least, make her interesting again, because right now she feels a little stagnant. However, the big thing about the segment was what happened after the match. Scarlett came out from somewhere, not sure where, I think the crowd, and I forgot what they called it now. What's it? Scarlett. I can't think of it. The Mist, basically. Scarlett spat out at AJ Styles. They had a really good name for it, and it's completely gone over my head. I can't remember it for the life of me right now. But yeah, Scarlett spat mist in the face of AJ Styles, and Karrion Kross choked him out from behind. And it was really badass. It was a very cool moment and cool spot. But as for the match itself, this wasn't particularly good. But Ignacio, what did you think about the match between the two?
No, just like everything else, every other thing on the show, it's just fillers just to lead to the pay-per-view with all the qualifying matches. Nothing special. I've never been a big fan of Michin or Mia Yim or what have you. I don't think she's average at the ring at best, but her appeal was because I guess maybe she was married to Keith Lee or whatever that people thought she was good. But I mean, I've never really been a big fan. And Bayley's been stagnant ever since, the first couple of weeks off of SummerSlam. What was it, last year? When she came out with Damage Control. I don't think they have the chemistry that they thought they would have. I don't think they've given them a ton of time and opportunity to kind of appeal to the fan base, either as heels, but I just don't think they're working out. And they give it a lot of TV. At one point, they would come out on all three shows, NXT, Raw, and SmackDown, and it just really hasn't worked out. I think this is you got it right that Bayley's stagnant right now, and I think she's just really there to kind of get people over, even though she went over, but she's not gonna. I don't think she's gonna win the Money in the Bank. I think this is Selena Vega's time. Selena Vega was a breakout star during the pandemic. I mean, when she would come out on Raw, Raw, SmackDown, and with Andrade and Austin Theory. It was a part of that little group, and Angel Garza. Like they were coming out like every other segment. Either she was a manager or she was like on commentary. And people talk about her size, and I've never really been big on size or depending on the person or the program or the show. Little people win all the time. That just doesn't, that takes the whole underdog thing out of it. But I think she has like a larger than life personality, and she connects with the fan base more than a lot of other people, especially lately with the LWO. So I think it really is her time to shine, for her to give her an opportunity on what she can do when she's at the top. So she's my prediction to win the Money in the Bank ladder match, because I really do think that she needs an opportunity to show what she can do.
Well, that is a great shout, and I'd love to see Zelina Vega winning Money in the Bank. And I've also just looked it up, and it's Scarlet Fever. That was the name of the smoke that Scarlet breathed in the face of AJ Styles, and I love that name. It's brilliant. Whoever in creative came up with it, fantastic, love it. But now let's move on to another Money in the Bank qualifying match. And this was basically, all of SmackDown last night. It was Money in the Bank qualifying matches, Money in the Bank qualifying matches, a Jey Uso backstage segment, and in more Money in the Bank qualifying matches. It was the entire show, and they were unfortunately all quite quick too. But the next one we're talking about is in the men's division, as Butch took on Baron Corbin. And NXT champion Carmelo Hayes was in the crowd for this one, as of course Baron Corbin is feuding with him over on NXT TV at the minute. Corbin was was on top for most of this short match, but then Butch took Corbin's arm and rolled him into a pin, and it looked really swift. It was fantastic. I said that I wanted Butch to get the win, and he got it. I'm really, really happy about it. He's going to be super over in the UK in the O2 Arena. I really do hope they rename him soon, and I hope they do that well, but that's a bit of a side thing. He got the win here. It's time to repackage him, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in the Money in the Bank match in London. However, after the match, Baron Corbin and Carmelo Hayes got physical in the crowd before being split up. But then, after a commercial break, Baron Corbin was backstage, and then Cameron Grimes came out of nowhere, took him out. Corbin was trying to explain, saying, it wasn't fair, blah, blah, blah. I was distracted by Carmelo Hayes. And then, Grimes just completely took him out. And poor Corbin, he's just being attacked from all angles at the minute. As you pointed out on yesterday's show, Coby, Cameron Grimes did say next time Corbin was back on SmackDown, he was going to take him out. And he did just that. It's a good thing they didn't forget. And it's also a good thing they acknowledged the NXT title feud. I enjoyed this for what it was, but again, it was a super, super short match. You can't really say much about it. But the segment itself, it was done fine, but just like quite a few other matches, it was just too fast. But Coby, what was your thoughts on this entire segment?
Like, that's the thing, is I agree with what you said. And like I said, there was a lot of angles they could approach this match. And I think they actually hit all of them. They hit the fact that, well, these are two guys that almost needed the victory. Butch is, of course, feeling not necessarily stagnant, but Butch almost needs purpose, and now he kind of does with the Money in the Bank. I still don't know if the direction Sheamus versus Theory now, because they really didn't touch that this week. But I don't necessarily know. That's why I was almost like, okay, well, if Sheamus isn't going to get the match, Butch versus Theory, Sheamus would do his job if he's in Butch's corner. I don't know. Obviously, Butch is in Money in the Bank. We don't know if we're getting a US title match. But there's a lot of angles they went with. There, like I said, there were the three things that needed to happen, and I think they did. They exposed Carmelo Hayes, not exposed, but they brought Carmelo Hayes in the crowd. He got a good pop, I want to say. And at the end of the day, they involved him. I don't want to say they gave people a reason to care about him, but they showcased him. He got physical. He was in a brawl with Baron Corbin, and then Cameron Grimes attacked him, like you said. I don't want to say they accomplished everything that we could think of coming into this match. This had to be, although it was all right, this had to be the most effective squash match of the night, I would think.
Yeah, no, that is fair enough. And of course, on yesterday's show, you said no, you said there's no way they're doing Sheamus versus Austin Theory. You didn't think that was the direction anymore, and it looks like you were 100% right. Like I said, though, on yesterday's show, Sheamus is super, super over in the UK. He's like probably the most well-known current WWE star here. And for that reason, I think he's going to be in the tag match. I think him and Ridge Holland will be competing for the tag team titles. Even though, of course, it's would be a face versus face. I still think that's the direction they're going in for Money in the Bank, or perhaps the night before on SmackDown. Who knows? Because they haven't announced when that will be taking place yet. But what we know is the gauntlet match to find out which tag team it will be taking place on next week's edition of SmackDown. But we'll get on to what's next for Austin Theory later on. But instead, right now, let's talk about what was next for the Money in the Bank qualifying matches. And this is the final one we'll be talking about in the women's division as Shotzi Blackheart took on Io Sky. And this short match was good for what it was, but it's another short match. I mean, this is feeling repetitive now. As this entire show, this is what it felt like. It felt really repetitive. I mean, all these short matches were done well for what they were, but it's like together, it just felt too repetitive. It did. I didn't particularly like the show, in all honesty. Individually, they were fine together. It just felt like a bit of a mess. But Bayley took out Shotzi's leg, and that resulted in Io Sky being able to get the victory. Damage control looks fine for the time being. There's no cracks there. Damage control is fine. I'm sure it won't become Money in the Bank, but we'll have to wait and see. But they were united last night. But Clark, what do you have to say about this? And do you think Damage control is finally controlling some damage?
I think this was a microcosm of the Damage control thing the whole time. They haven't controlled any damage or been given the time to tell a proper story. I love Bayley being the heel that she is. And I think, speaking of controlling damage, it's time for Bayley to control the damage to her character and reputation over the last 2 years, because she was basically the MJF of the women's division in the WWE 2 years ago, pretty much untouchable Bayley Dose straps. And I hope she turns on Io Sky at Money in the Bank and wins the briefcase. And the damage that she controls is to her own status, because I think talent-wise, she's the best heel currently in the WWE women's division on either roster by far, if presented properly and not in charge of a group that we don't understand why she's even friends with them.
Yeah. I mean, we've been saying it all along. I mean, you've been a critic of damage control longer than anybody, and at the end of the day, a lot of what you said very early on has ended up being true, unfortunately, which sucks, as we're all of us are fans of them all individually.
Yeah, Bayley is my favorite women's wrestler in the WWE by far.
But together, they just haven't given us the reason to care.
Yeah, give me a why.
As cringe as it is, they've still not told us what damage they are controlling. But it's one of those things. I mean, do you think there's a possibility Io Sky will actually win Money in the Bank?
No, I think it's time to control the damage that Damage Control has done. And Bayley's got to win it.
You very simply think that.
I think Bayley's got to win it. I think Bayley, to reestablish herself, right? Bayley was in a position where it made sense to put some people over for some time because she was so well respected and high on the card. With what's happened since she came back with Damage Control off of a horrific injury that she did in training, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what stalled her incredible run. The Hell in a Cell matches with Sasha Banks, or the Hell in a Cell match with Sasha Banks, is off the charts. The match she put on with Bianca during that time, Bayley bell to bell is as good as anyone. And then on the mic, she could get under your skin in a way that, I mean, I compared her to MJF earlier. The difference is but many of us know where she came from character-wise with the side pony and the friends with everybody. To be able to play the slimy snake of a heel made it even that much more brilliant, I think. And some of the cringy stuff that she was doing then, the ding dong hello and Bayley Dose strap stuff, it landed. It wasn't go away heat. It was heat. And I want to get back to that for sure as quickly as possible. And I think because in a weird way, because the damage control story itself kind of, I don't want to say failed, but didn't quite elevate the three the way you would have expected on paper. It is appropriate for a veteran like Bayley to win the women's side of the Money in the Bank this year, as opposed to trying to make a younger talent.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair point to make. I mean, I think the other, I mean, you could have, Io Sky being on top of the ladder, then Bayley throwing her off, and then her winning it or something like that.
Yeah.
That way, or perhaps you could even have Io actually winning it and then Bayley turning on her after that, and then them feuding for the Money in the Bank briefcase. And I know that's a bit taboo about whether or not that's a bit of an issue in itself, but it's something WWE have done. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't have too much of an issue with it.
I'd almost want to see the feud go the other way, where Bayley screws Io Sky and throws her off the ladder and wins, and then Io, as the babyface, chases the briefcase but loses to Bayley still.
Yeah.
But to give her, like, because you can main event a SmackDown likely with that match, Io Sky versus Bayley for the Money in the Bank briefcase. You could borderline like open a pay-per-view or co-main event a pay-per-view with that match as well. Yeah. And then we can really get a story coming out of Damage Control that we probably deserved in the beginning, and they deserved as talents.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. But talking about stories, let's talk now about the big story on SmackDown last night, which, of course, was Jey Uso was meant to choose a side. And the show started last night. SmackDown kicked off with Heyman and Solo being in the ring before Jey Uso came out and confronted Solo Sikoa for, turning on his brother last week. He gave Sikoa a chance to speak, but Heyman interrupted and explained, all of this is Jimmy Uso's fault. Jey shouldn't be accusing Solo. He should be accusing Jimmy. Heyman then explained that Roman Reigns is grooming him to become the new tribal chief. The right-hand man to the tribal chief. Jimmy isn't the right-hand man. Jey is. And Jimmy is jealous because of that. I mean, it's similar to what you actually spoke about on the show yesterday, Clark. But that's basically what happened. And Heyman then went on to say Roman Reigns wants to prove this to Jey. So because of that, Jey is getting a United States Championship opportunity against Austin Theory in the main event tonight. Jey then accepts this, but doesn't give an answer to whether or not he is aligning himself or continuing to align himself with the tribal chief. Then in a backstage promo, Sami Zayn attempted to convince Jey not to turn on Jimmy and to instead, go against Roman Reigns. What a big shock that is. And then later on, Paul Heyman approached Jey again, and he asked for his passport and his suit size, saying that he needed his passport because he was going to fly Jey on a private jet to Money in the Bank, and he needs a suit size because next week there will be a championship celebration for Jey once he wins the United States title, and then he can acknowledge Roman Reigns as his tribal chief, and Roman can begin the process to making him the new tribal chief. Jey then basically just says, well, Paul, I don't think you should be too happy, as if I accept, then you're going to be out of the bloodline. So Roman Reigns seemingly has an ultimatum now. Where is he going to choose, Paul Heyman or Jey? Although we still don't really know if Jey's fully Jey's saying that I'll definitely align myself if you get rid of Heyman. It's all a bit of a mess, but it's a mess which is very interesting to watch and entertaining. It was undoubtedly the best thing on SmackDown last night. Then in the main event, we had Austin Theory versus Jey Uso, and this match was fairly short. It felt a bit quick as well. And there was a typical Bloodline referee bump in it. I'm kind of getting a little sick of those now, to be honest. It's kind of feeling like Bullet Club, 2018 to 2021, where there's just a ref bump in every single match. Pretty Deadly came out from the crowd to attack Jey Uso before Jimmy came out of nowhere to make the save. Solo then came out to take out Jimmy, but Jey stopped him, leading to Jimmy then accidentally taking out Jey instead of Solo. And then Solo took out Jimmy, and they started fighting outside the ring, and then Theory got the sneak victory. 1, 2, 3. And then the episode ended with Jey pushing Jimmy away before then walking right past Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa. So we're none the wiser about who Jey's siding with in this one. But Ignacio, I'll go to you first. What did you think of this story and this entire storyline as a whole right now?
Well, wait. This is Stitch, by the way.
Yeah.
Let me comment about one thing first, and I don't want to derail the topic, or I know we're on a timestamp, but I just think that for the previous segment that I talked about, like I think two of the most underutilized talents that right now are Scarlett and Karrion Kross, because I think they should be farther along where they're at, and I just think it's horrible booking on WWE's part that he's not in a more high profile spot right now. So. Going to this topic, yeah, the match. I thought it was a good match for what it was. It's just to continue the Bloodline storyline, because that's the hottest thing that's been in WWE and in wrestling, in my opinion, for the past 3 years. Is anything involving the Bloodline, and they're just taking an interesting approach to further the storyline with Roman and Jay. And I always thought Jay was a star. I was happy when they gave Jay a singles push back with Roman when they started the Bloodline storyline, because I think out of the both Usos, Jimmy and Jay, and Jimmy's come into his own also as of late. They're bringing him more into the fold. These guys, everybody involved in this storyline, the Usos, Roman, Solo, Paul Heyman, of course, everybody's the main event star. But I think Jey Uso's the one who can really shine and be like a Roman Reigns level competitor or level star. And this whole thing about Paul Heyman trying to manipulate Jey Uso, yeah, Roman wants you to make you the next tribal chief, etc., etc. I don't think that's gonna be Jay's spot as far as like when he becomes a breakout star. I think he's gonna come into his own. I think this is a platform for him to jump up to the next level, because I do think he has the potential to be the next big thing in WWE. But I think it's just a very good, well played out storyline as far as where they're going. It still is the hottest thing in WWE. It seemed like for a minute there, like it kind of was going to get stale, but I don't really think it is. I think we're just going into like a next level, a next avenue on where they're taking the story. Now, as far as like, where they're headed, or the match itself, like, you know, the match itself it's okay. Austin Theory has his own thing going on with Sheamus, and I guess we decided to forget about that because the Bloodline storyline's the most important thing right now. So we'll do that. And I don't know, I like where things were going. Some people think, like you said, it's stagnant, but I mean, I like it. I mean, I like everybody that's involved with this. I like everybody's role, and I think that's the important thing. And I'll touch up on this, and I'll give it to somebody else. I think the reason why this is working out so well is because everybody is playing and doing their role. Everybody knows their role, and everybody is doing it very well. From Heyman to Solo to the Usos to Roman. That's why this storyline is playing out so well, because everybody knows their role. I very highly doubt that there's much scripting going on, and they're just letting the guys come up with their own thing and, hey, just go out and do what you know how to do. And that's why it's working out so well.
Yeah, 100%. And because they all know their characters so well, there's so many layers to the story, and that's when it just gets so good. And every time we think it's going to start to get a little bit boring, it pulls us right back in again. But Coby, what did you think about the segment last night?
I think Ignacio kind of hit the head on the nail. I mean, we were all feeling the entire storyline was stagnant after WrestleMania before Roman showed up, because it took, I want to say, 5-6 weeks for Roman to return, and a lot of it was, okay, well, the Bloodline attack either Kevin, Sammy, or Riddle. Then they do that, and like it was the same angle for almost 5 weeks in a row. It's ever since Roman initially returned, and then he did the whole, okay, well, you're not the tag team of the Bloodline anymore. It's going to be me and Sikoa. It has been the best thing again. It took a pause after WrestleMania, and it's truly back. I do want to give a lot of praise to Jey Uso, because obviously, yes, he's still in the Bloodline scenario, or he's in or he's out, and we know that is the entire story. But the fact of the matter is this main event was a stepping stone. Yes, it was not meant to be like, oh, this is gonna end the storyline of the Bloodline. No, it's not. But at the end of the day, the crowd was very much behind Jey Uso, and that type of crowd is what you're gonna want, and especially for a match that necessarily is not a massive or not a historic, but it's not a massive match in the storyline. Jey Uso had the crowd in the palm of his hands, and a lot of that has to be. I don't want to say a custom, but a lot of it has to be praised to the work that Jey Uso has. Jey Uso's over with the crowd. His face run. If the goal is we're going to get a Roman Jey Uso match at SummerSlam, he's going to be so over, and I'm glad. And this just shows you that with a match that isn't as big as a Roman versus Jey Uso match, this type of match, he had the crowd in the palm of his hands. He's at the top of his game. He is main event Jey Uso once again, and I like that fact. I think it is interesting to see where they go with the entire. Oh, is Heyman gonna go or not? I don't know, but like we said, this storyline we often don't know where it's going, and that's the genius of it.
110%. And you briefly then, Coby, touched upon, of course, Heyman. Is he going to get kicked out? Is he not going to get kicked out? Well, something which was very interesting on SmackDown last night was Austin Theory said that if he needs a new superstar, well, he's around. And Clark, you for a long time being a big critic of Austin Theory, so I wanted to ask you to wrap things up. Do you think Paul Heyman managing Austin Theory, do you think that could be what Theory's missing?
I think you would have to add both Theory and Pretty Deadly for that to be relevant. At the end of the day, my favorite thing from last night involving Paul Heyman was the line you mentioned earlier about the passport. And Jey Uso sold it amazing. He looked kind of at the hard camera and kind of at the crowd, almost into the audience, like, would you give Paul Heyman your passport? Like, that was the look he gave. Not like, even after the description of the celebration and why, he's like, hang on, do I trust Paul Heyman enough to hand him my passport? Like, what does he mean by that? And I thought that was brilliant. I thought the match itself was brilliant. Here's one bugaboo I had, and I not to not answer your Theory question fully, but so Jay lands a super kick on Theory and then has to go for an Uso splash after the ref bump for the finish.
Yeah. Jimmy
lands one super kick on Jay and it's enough to put him away. Is Jimmy's super kick the Sweet Chin Music? I'm not sure. Like, is there something there? I don't know. That would be my only complaint about last night. Other than that, I loved everything about it. And do I think Heyman could drastically, greatly benefit Austin Theory? Absolutely. He might be the only guy who you could attach to Theory, and he could mold him enough for me to change my opinion on Austin Theory. It would be Paul Heyman, or maybe even like a Don Callis or a Regal, but I think Heyman's the only active one that's available.
I think he's the only one who can, he's currently allowed to be on WWE TV, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe it would work, or maybe it would be another, Curtis Axel. We don't know how, what's going to happen yet, but we're going to have to wait and find out. And we've got Chaos in the comments here saying, good show, guys. And of course, Chaos is currently in Malta. I hope you're having a great holiday out there, Chaos. He'll be back very, very soon. But guys, that pretty much brings us to the end of the show. But very quickly before we end it, we've got a mini announcement that tomorrow will be, for the time being, the final Sunday Fun Day, because of course AEW Collision's starting, so we'll have to be covering that on Sundays. It's just so much wrestling. But make sure you guys tune in for that tomorrow, and Coby will be hosting the quiz, and it's going to be a good one for sure. And that will be normal time, I believe, 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 12 p.m. Pacific time. Then everybody watching on YouTube, please leave a like and subscribe, and everybody on Spotify, please 5-star and a follow. We really appreciate it. We're here every single day for you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. And I see you, Anthony Manzano, in the comments here. And we'll answer your comments. Submit them for Mailbag Monday, and we'll answer them on Monday. Thank you, guys. We'll see you then.